20 Facts, Inazuma 11.
Number 1. So picture this. It's 2007, and Level 5 is basically printing money with Professor Layton on the Nintendo DS. They're practically the kings of handheld gaming at this point. But the creator, Akihiro Hino, he didn't just want to sit on that success. He was hungry for another massive hit, a totally new franchise that could stand right next to his top puzzle solver. So what does he pick? Football. Soccer, if you're in the States. And this is where he really started cooking. He flat out refused to just make a basic sports simulator. He wanted something way, way more ambitious.
Number 2. Hino took the beautiful game and absolutely mutated it into a full-blown RPG. You weren't just playing standard matches. You were out there recruiting teammates like you were trying to catch them all in Pokemon. And when you actually stepped onto the pitch, absolute insanity. We're talking superhuman, screen-shattering special moves that you trigger right in the middle of the game. Plus, you literally use the DS stylus to physically draw out your tactical formations on the touchscreen. It was this crazy, perfectly executed fusion of traditional sports and high-stakes fantasy adventure. Number 3. Think about almost every sports anime out there. 9 times out of 10, the main character is the flashy striker, right? The guy who scores the buzzer-beater winning goal. Not here. Hino made the incredibly unique choice to put his hero, Endo Mamoru, all the way at the back as a goalkeeper. Endo stands completely alone on the back line. His main job isn't to score, it's to stop the impossible shots, and basically serve as this immovable pillar that inspires the rest of his team to push past their limits.
Number 4. Level 5 really didn't hold anything back. When they dropped this franchise, they orchestrated a massive triple-threat attack on the Japanese market. The debut video game hit shelves in August of 2008. But that obviously wasn't enough. The manga adaptation started serializing in the legendary CoroCoro comic that exact same summer. And just to guarantee total media domination, the anime premiered on TV Tokyo in October. Game, manga, anime. They completely surrounded their target audience from day one. Number 5. Now, it wasn't an instant, overnight success. The anime actually kicked off with pretty modest ratings in late 2008. But here's where the underdog story kicks in. By the time they hit episode 14, something clicked. The show finally cracked the top 10 with a solid 4% audience share. Why? Simply because kids were literally hyping it up at recess. Pure, organic schoolyard word of mouth was spreading across Japan like wildfire, and the show had officially found its ride-or-die audience. Number 6. Even with that growing hype, the reality of the anime industry is just brutal. The series faced intense cancellation pressure, which is exactly the kind of sword hanging over the neck of almost every long-running kids show. But then, we hit July 2010. Episode 90 drops and absolutely shatters expectations, hitting a massive 6.2% share. That was literally the highest rating of the entire historical run. It essentially saved the show. Inazuma 11 wasn't just another cartoon anymore. It had become absolute appointment television. Number 7. Dominating Japan was a massive win, but it was really only half the battle. Level 5 knew exactly where the ultimate endgame was: Europe. The place where football isn't just a sport, it's pretty much a religion. So they strategically rolled out the anime in Spain, Italy, and France, and it worked beautifully. They tapped straight into audiences who already lived and breathed the language of the pitch. Number 8. The hype got so real, they had to take it to the big screen. The first theatrical film opened in December 2010, and it absolutely crushed, debuting at number 2 at the Japanese box office. By February, this movie had pulled in over $21 million. Just let that sink in for a second. A quirky football RPG anime had successfully transformed itself into a certified blockbuster cinematic event. Number 9. The critics eventually had to put some respect on its name, too. In 2010, the manga took home the super prestigious Kodansha Manga Award for children's manga. And then it casually followed that up by winning the Shogakukan Manga Award in 2011. Let me just make this clear. No other football manga had ever won both of those massive awards back to back. The kids obviously already knew it was peak fiction, but now the industry elites had officially validated their obsession. Number 10. Back over in Europe, specifically in Spain and Italy, the anime evolved into this generation-defining childhood memory. We're talking about kids who had zero interest in anime, kids who had never even watched a Japanese cartoon in their lives, suddenly rushing home from school to tune in every single day. The local dubbing studios even localized it so well that they spawned their own legendary, iconic catchphrases. It completely broke through all cultural borders. Number 11. Okay, this one is just wild to me. An actual 2025 academic study interviewed young adults across China and Japan, and multiple respondents admitted on the record that this series was the direct reason they joined real-life football clubs. There was literally a Japanese kid in the study who played the sport for 5 straight years purely because of the show. Anime fiction had straight-up rewritten real-life physical habits, which is just awesome. Number 12. The power scaling in this series is unhinged in the absolute best way possible. In 2011, the sequel trilogy Inazuma 11 Go drops, and they just throw all the brakes out the window. They introduce literal time travel, parallel dimensions, giant glowing Kishin spirit avatars. What started as a fairly grounded middle school sports tournament somehow transformed into an epic, cosmic battle for existence. The franchise learned exactly how to escalate, and they refused to apologize for it.
Number 13. But, all that constant hype really takes a toll. By 2015, creator Akihiro Hino was genuinely feeling the burnout. He openly admitted in interviews that he was just completely exhausted by standard growth narratives. He was tired of writing the exact same formula where a hero matures by fighting a slightly stronger enemy over and over again. The series had essentially chained him to that rigid structure for 7 unrelenting years. The man just needed to step back and find a completely new creative voice.
Number 14, and this is where things get pretty dark for the fandom. In 2016, Level 5 announced Ares no Tenbin, which was pitched as a massive multimedia reboot. The anime part actually did end up airing in 2018, giving fans 26 new episodes. But the companion game? It fell straight into absolute development hell. It was delayed again and again and again, until finally, tragically, Level 5 just pulled the plug and canceled the game entirely in 2019. Number 15. Out of those ashes, Victory Road was announced as the next big mainline entry. But man, the wait was agonizing. This game suffered over 10 separate delays stretching across 9 long years. Level 5 cited massive bottlenecks with voice recording and global localization as the final hurdles. The community literally just sat there, coping and waiting, while 2 entirely different console generations came and went. Number 16. But then, November 13, 2025, Victory Road finally launched worldwide. And they did it massive, a simultaneous release across 6 different platforms, hitting PC for the very first time in franchise history. And as if that wasn't enough to completely break the internet, they brought in the legendary studio MAPPA to animate the cutscenes. After almost a decade of dead silence and dashed hopes, the lightning had officially returned. Number 17. And the fans absolutely showed up. The comeback was completely real. Victory Road pushed over 500,000 copies in just its first week. By January of 2026, it had smashed past 800,000 copies globally, shooting straight up to the #1 spot on the Japanese digital charts. It was just a massive flex, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that this franchise still packed serious commercial firepower. Number 18, you have got to hear about Chronicle mode in this game. They packed in over 5,400 playable characters, over $5 grand. You can go back and literally replay every single major match from the entire history of the franchise. And with the main story set 25 years after the very first game, Victory Road acts as both a brand new sequel and an incredibly deep interactive museum for longtime fans.
Number 19. Let's just step back and look at the sheer numbers for a second. The game series, over 8 million copies sold worldwide. The original anime, an absolute marathon, running for 127 episodes. Toss in 4 massive theatrical films just in that first decade alone. It's kind of crazy to think about, but Inazuma 11 has been around for so long now that the franchise itself is actually older than a lot of the kids playing it today.
Number 20. When you strip away all the flaming tornadoes, the giant spirit avatars, and the cosmic soccer battles, the core soul of this series is purely about one thing: sheer, unbelievable persistence. This whole massive journey, it started with just one single boy who looked at a dead, disbanded club and flatly rejected reality. Endo Mamoru stood out there in the mud, completely by himself, stubbornly guarding a dream that logically had absolutely no right to survive. And from that one solitary stand, an entire universe of epic stories was born. That's 20 facts in the back of the net. If this rundown sparks some lightning for you, guard that subscribe button like your Endo on the back line, pass this on to your own squad, and drop a like to keep the dream alive. See you on the pitch next time.